Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Ultimate Landscape CEO podcast. Today's guest, Tim Johnson from Tim Johnson Landscaping. Tim runs a $10 million business co-owned with his father. And it's a great business for the podcast because it's residential, commercial, install, maintenance. I invited Tim on because he's the president, or he's basically I invited him on because he's involved with the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association. He happens to be the president of the board, and I'll be speaking there soon this coming winter. And I wanted to get to know him better, and I didn't choose him just for that, but because he has a great story and a great business for this podcast. He started off playing baseball, which is the second person I've had on a podcast here who started off playing pro ball. And he really has grown this business together with his father. And he's been through all the struggles that every business has, no matter your size. Too much on his shoulders, not using professional software, being reactive, not having built a leadership team. And he has really created a wonderful business. And he's got a few secrets here that he shares on how he goes about business. And of course, there's going to be some debate between me and him because, hey, if we both agree with each other, then one of us is not needed here. And so it's a great podcast story. And I think you will enjoy, no matter the size of your company, you'll really enjoy the process he's gone through and the humility it's taken and the drive and perseverance to build this business. Let's jump right in. Tim Johnson, welcome to the show.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Listen, let's jump right in. Tell us about your business as it stands today.
So we are based in Statesville, North Carolina, serve the Charlotte market of North Carolina, kind of the Piedmont area. About 110 employees, do residential and commercial work, maintenance and install, and we can get into some of the breakdowns as we go through.
Okay. So what's the total revenue this year?
We'll be around 10 million this year.
And you were saying that you budgeted for more, but you had some struggles. And this has been a tough year for everybody. Even if they're having a great year, it was a grind. So
it's been a really interesting year for us. So I got books closed, got last month's P&L, and was pleasantly surprised at better than expected performance. So we're actually on pace to have one of our best profit years that we've ever had, despite our top number not being. So we budgeted for 12 million through some lack of sales and through some lack of management, frankly, being honest, on the maintenance side. Our top line number has been a little bit lower than we hoped, but we've managed cost and managed efficiencies with crews, a big focus for us. And so our profitability is increased this year, even though the top line hasn't.
Yeah. Now I hear that story with a few of my clients for sure. Revenue down, but they've really focused on efficiencies. I was going to say at 100 employees, you've got a real company. How is that stress different from managing a 10-person company when it was all on your shoulders?
I keep telling myself we get bigger, we'll have that next layer of management, that next layer of structure, and it'll get a little bit easier. And in some ways it has, but there's also challenges along the way as well. But I wouldn't trade our leadership team with anybody's, and am thankful for the group that we have that leads our crews and deals with our customers.
So does it get easier at 100 people?
With the right people around you, it does.
Okay, that's a good answer. Good answer, Tim. Yep. So tell us, there aren't many silver bullets in business, right? It's always a grind, but I've always said that having the right leadership team, becomes your silver bullet in effect. And if you don't, it becomes your albatross. So you said you love yours. Tell us, how many direct reports do you have and who else is on the leadership team?
So I'm actually working on reducing my direct reports currently. So I have always had a big passion for the construction part of our business. understand maintenance is very important, but I kind of default to the construction work. And so I have admittedly not let go of construction the way I should. So I have actually taken my construction manager, is no longer a direct report of mine. He is reporting to my director of operations now, as he should have on our corporate org chart. And so I've got Bill, who is my director of operations, who's a direct report, and then Callie, who is our estimator and purchaser, still reports to me. And then Lisa, who is in accounting for us, reports to me, and everybody else reports through to Bill.
So is your leadership team 3 people and you?
I would consider our leadership team. So I partner on this business with my dad. I get the opportunity to work with him every day. Started the business together, have grown the business together. Some fun stories along the way, but I would consider our leadership team to be Bill, who's our director of operations and kind of functions as our branch manager at our headquarters. Yep. Grayson, who's our branch manager down in Charlotte, and then Chad, who's our construction division manager, is our formal leadership team. And then, we've got our management group that we get together and meet with weekly that lead the guys in the field.
So your leadership team sounded different from your direct reports. Did I hear that right?
Yes. So, and really the only difference is Grayson and Chad now report to Bill, rather than reporting to me and Tim Sr., just because I'm working really hard, focusing on working on the business rather than in the business every day. And so it's kind of a necessary step right now for me to make those changes personally.
But your accounting person is not on the leadership team?
She does not attend our weekly leadership meetings, but her and I have a direct sit down weekly.
Interesting. So you don't have like a finance person that's on your weekly leadership meeting?
Now that you're telling me, now that we're talking about this and you're saying it out loud, it sounds like she should be there. But most of our weekly meetings, I do one-on-one with my direct reports, and then the group gets together before our production meetings and talks about the more of the field and employee workload levels and things like that ahead of time. Yeah. And I do most of my direct report meetings one-on-one.
Gotcha. And so remind me or tell the audience, what's the split of install to maintenance?
So right now we're about 50-50. I really want to get maintenance to where it's more 70-75% of the business. But while we have throttled some of the growth on the construction side, it has come a little bit easier because we're in a hot market. Charlotte's a big banking center, and Lake Norman's super hot. So a lot of the residential install has come a little bit easier than some of the maintenance has. So our growth this year and what we have budgeted for next year is only through efficiencies on the crews. We've not added any headcount on our construction side. And at the end of next year will be 3 years.
Yeah. So you're 50-50. And what about residential to commercial? I'm going to guess more maintenance is commercial and more installs residential.
Correct. So our residential maintenance is about 60% commercial now. But our construction work is 85% residential.
Yeah. That's a tough split, meaning, they're totally different markets, but I know that you feel like it's one of your aces up your sleeve. And so I think that maybe makes you the exception in the industry, kind of giving you a little advantage. Tell us how you feel that's an advantage for you.
We're definitely a little bit different company. We don't necessarily fit the mold. We have really restricted residential maintenance. So we started as a 100% residential company. So that's where a lot of the residential base of all of it on both sides of the business comes from. But we have realized that on the residential side of things, we're not trying to compete with, the guy with a pickup truck and a trailer working on the side, or has a 3-day-a-week factory job or a 4-day-a-week factory job. We want to be differentiated, and we want to be separated and offer a better level of care. And so I think in the next 12 to 24 months, I'll see us make a move that says that we don't accept new residential customers unless we've done the install.
Yeah.
I think that's the direction we're heading. And we're seeing it almost naturally happen in the services we're offering. Services we're offering align with the people we're doing construction work for.
Yeah. You were saying offline in your prep that you thought this detail that you have to do in residential allows you to separate yourself in commercial.
I do. I think that the detail required to do those projects carries through our entire business, and the training required, we don't separate our commercial and residential training when we're training our teams. And so the training level required to do a lot of that real niche, high-end residential work gets trained over to our commercial people, which then carries over into the product we're offering on that side of the business.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I like that a lot because really there are different kinds of businesses, but you treat it as the same.
In a lot of ways, we do. We don't, generally speaking, our residential crews do residential work and our commercial crews do commercial work.
Okay.
But we still feel like I've got a horticulture degree, which is a little abnormal in our business. And I feel like that level of knowledge is necessary to provide the product that I want us to ultimately offer.
Yeah. But you have one, your in your value system is one level of quality.
Correct.
That's good. That's great, actually. You know, take us back to the beginning. And I heard you mention your dad. How did this whole thing begin? I know it's a great story. Tell us how it all started.
Like a lot of people in our industry, this was never really supposed to happen. I played baseball all through childhood, played college ball, a little bit beyond. And so I went to practice and came home one day, and one of the guys had gotten a brand new car for his 16th birthday. So I made the mistake of asking my dad, "What are you going to buy me when I turn 16?" To which I got the answer. He's very blunt, great, fun to be around, but you will never question what's on his mind. And so he looked at me and said, "I'm not buying you anything." He said, "You can drive something around here if it's available, but if you want something that's yours, you better figure out a way to make some money." So I kind of went and thought about it. And over the next several weeks, really the only option for me at that age was to start mowing some neighbors' grass. And it was really just supposed to be a way to make some money, to save some money, buy a vehicle when I turned 16. And, that was going to be the end of the business. I was going to go to college. I was going to be an engineer, and that was going to be the story. And
wait, you were going to be a baseball player or an engineer?
Well, engineer was the backup plan.
Gotcha.
So as I got to college and realized, I got to college, I was at a liberal arts school. And when I went to sign up for my sophomore year of classes, my advisor looked at me and said, "You need to pick between baseball and engineering. You can't do both." Grades were fine. And so I had a conversation with her, and she said, "I just don't feel like I should sign you up for classes." And so I got up, thanked her, and walked out of the door. And she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Well, ma'am, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but one of these is paying for me to be here, so I guess I need to find another major." So I went through my sophomore year of college as a business major before I ultimately took it. I took that year, reflected, needed to make a change baseball wise anyway, and really reflected and knew I wanted to get somewhere in the green industry. I thought it would be a little bit more along the lines of turf grass, whether that be on athletic fields or a golf course. Transferred to North Carolina A&T, got a Hort degree and a certificate in entrepreneurship, and then kind of started from there. And along the way, Dad had been in the insurance business for about 20 years, retired early, realized he was bored. Yeah. So when I went off to school, he kept doing the properties that I was doing, and he grew it a little bit.
Yeah.
And so when I got done playing ball in 2009, it was him and I and a part-time guy. And that was really where we started from. I mean, it was just him and I, very small prior to 2009. And then from there, we're up to about 105, 110 people now.
So he was 50 back then.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you're Tim the second. Is that right?
I am. And I have Tim the third. He is 4.
Okay.
And I've got a daughter named Eleanor as well.
Did you and your dad always get along? Listen, I worked with my father, and I wanted to. It was like intentional a little bit later in life. Well, not, actually, it wasn't later in life. It was what I was about 32. So, yeah, a little later in life than you were. And I chose to get back in the business and work with him because I just, we have a strong connection, but we definitely butt heads in the business. And it definitely took me leaving the business and starting my own business to where we really bonded and got connected. And so clearly you guys are maybe more, maybe my dad and I were more the same. Maybe you and your dad are a little more different. I don't know. How have you made it work?
No, we butted heads several times along the way. And had I followed my original business plan, it probably would have been a little bit easier. So it's still in my office. My business plan from college when I was in my entrepreneurship classes, I had an advantage. I knew what I wanted to do at that point. So I wrote a business plan for Tim Johnson Landscaping. And in that business plan, we wanted 2 crews. He wanted to mow grass and I wanted to probably do install work 3 days a week and mow a couple of days a week. And that was all we ever wanted, or so I thought. And when we were doing that, it worked really well. And then when I really wanted to start growing, he said he was retired and he didn't want to manage people again. He had 120 agents under him at one point and, didn't want to go there again. And so it was there were some pretty good arguments along the way. And in about 2014, I came in the office one day and he was like, "Hey, I get it. I'm on board. What do we need to do?" And since then, pretty much the rest has been history. Software along the way has substantially, any quarrels that were after 2014, software along the way has helped remove the emotion from that. And now we get along really well, work really, really well together.
Wait. Did you just say adding a professional software helped you and your team sort of gel and get the emotion out and be more fact-based in your decision-making? 100%.
Can't hide behind the emotion of it. The facts are and the numbers are right in front of you.
Yeah, I love that. That's kind of cool. That's well, good for you guys. And so are you and your dad similar, or are you in fact sort of opposites or different?
It's interesting. We just had personality assessments done for our entire management team, including him and I. And I thought we were spitting images of each other. And coming to find out, as he's mellowed in his old age a little bit. His D is not quite as strong as I believe it once was, but he's very much a salesperson through and through. And I am in a lot of ways too, but am a pretty interesting mix between an operational mindset and a salesperson. And so where we complement each other really well, even though we align on a lot of things. Where I'm weaker, he's strong, and vice versa.
So that has definitely helped you guys stay together, probably.
Oh, yeah. Huge advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I have some longtime clients. One of them now works for me, and she said, I really like Jeffrey 2.0 better. I'm like, what do you mean by that? And I guess I've also mellowed with age. Apparently, I'm a much nicer version of myself.
Well, and I think I've even seen in myself, and I'm only 37 now, and I've seen in myself where, I'll take a little bit more time to reflect, or I'll think a little bit before I open my mouth, which needed to happen.
Well, you've probably learned it early in life at 37, Tim.
Yeah, I hope so, and hope to continue to every day.
So your dad's still in the business. He's 72 now. That's awesome.
74.
74. Oh my gosh.
We'll be 75 in 2 weeks.
So getting the software helped you remove the emotion. I love that, right? Any good professional system like that. And really what you're saying is a good handle on the numbers.
Absolutely.
Is helping remove the debate. I put on a financial masterclass every year for the past 3-4 years. And we collect, 150 companies' numbers, and we divide them by divisions and we look at the balance sheets and all that. And I love looking at numbers. And if you had asked me, years and like when I was growing up, I always liked money for some reason. Like I always had a little savings jar that I saved money in, but I never really thought of myself as a finance guy. But that's really what I've been drawn to over the years. And I love taking numbers, finding the story they tell and digging deeper into them and understanding kind of the nuances in the numbers. Who does that in your company?
So we've got a fractional CFO. We've got Lisa in-house who does the bulk of the work. We've also got a fractional CFO that's been a game changer for us because, interesting that you talk about your finance kind of background. The biggest thing is we have grown that I've really had to spend a lot of time in self-development on is better understanding the financials. And as we have done that, as I have done that, our business has gotten stronger because I understand how it's working. So, Lisa does a great job of preparing the numbers, and in our fractional takes the numbers out of, our accounting software and our landscape software. And I've got a dashboard. I can go in, check it. It gets updated weekly. And it really lets us manage the numbers in real time and not a month or 6 weeks behind when you used to get a P&L.
Yeah. I earned my MBA later in life before I returned to the family business. And it teaches you definitely about balance sheets and numbers and economics, but all the real learning happened afterwards. Nothing replaces, self-drive, self-learning and applied learning in the real world. School is good for learning how to learn and being disciplined, but you really got to dive in yourself. What have you found? Like, give us your top 3 or 4 or 5 or however many numbers that you look at your dashboard that you find most important for running your business.
So these days, a big part of our focus is on crew efficiency. I'm very confident in our estimating systems, and I think we estimate very accurately. And so a big part of what I'm looking at is budgeted versus actuals on hours, on materials, and those things. And we track that in real time. So we've got a really cool dashboard at both offices. The one in Statesville has got 6 monitors, 50 or 55-inch TVs, and the one in Charlotte's got 3. And so we've got in Statesville, we've got company and branch level KPIs for each division. And then we also have all the crews have efficiency dashboards, and they get real time data on that, and we go over it. We have our weekly trainings on Tuesday mornings, and we kind of call out the guys that are leading their divisions every week and give them a little pat on the back. We have occasionally had some competitions.
Let me slow you down. I want to hear about that, but I want to slow you down a little bit. This is good. So you do a weekly training. What do you train on?
So it is structured as most things are with me. The first week of the month is a leadership training. It is, and it's bigger than just landscape. Sometimes it directly pertains to what we're doing, but sometimes it's life things. I mean, we even do an annual budget, like a personal budgeting training for people to take better care of their personal finances. But, leading through adversity, how to talk to customers, how to present yourself as a professional, or some of the topics on that. The second and third week of the month are divisional trainings. So construction division has a training, maintenance has a training, and we kind of structure those to where the enhancement teams go in one direction or the other, depending on the training. And then the fourth week of the month, we do a whole group safety training. And then every week we do a tree of the week, a shrub of the week, a perennial of the week, and a weed of the week for identification.
Well, it's quite a bit.
And we do it in 30 minutes. We keep it short, keep it where, my attention span struggles to be beyond 30 minutes sometimes. So we keep it fast paced, keep it fun, try and get them outside and physically do it when we can.
Yep. And so Okay, now back to the financials. So in these meetings, you were saying you call out crew of the week. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so we'll just we'll look up there and we'll look at the top 2 or 3 crews and who's got the best efficiency numbers for the. So we do both. We look at last week, and then what we learned is looking at last week is good, but it doesn't really give you the ability to fix anything along the way. It's kind of historical numbers. So we give them last week's numbers, and then we give them a rolling 7-day number, and so that's a number that they can still affect. And so we kind of
explain rolling 7-day.
It's literally the last 7 days. So if it's Tuesday, they see their Monday to Monday previously, and that goes along through the week.
Yeah. Okay. And so so tell us a bit more. I want to hear more on this financial part.
So for us, I mean, one of the big things we realized was we despite what I think our benchmarking numbers say, we do a pretty good job managing our overhead. And so a lot of the costs that we need to manage from a financial perspective were labor hours and direct costs. And so, we look at budget versus actual. Our landscape software, has estimated material costs. We're always trying to buy at or below that. And if we're over, we're going in and looking why did we double buy, or why did we pay too much?
Yep.
And then we're looking at the hours, because that directly goes to, you're looking at your labor hours as a whole. If your labor hours are over, you're starting to go into overtime. We have cut our overtime over the last 3 years by a little over 60%.
Wow.
And so our average overtime is, we allow them 3 hours of overtime a week. We don't prefer it, but we allow it without authorization.
Tim, that's not much.
It's not. And if you get stuck in traffic one day, you eat half of that up. So, we understand there's a little bit of, factors there that go into that, and that you can't hit 100% efficiency all the time, but we have to set the expectation and try and uphold the expectation. And then,
so I get holding overtime that tight for like commercial maintenance, maybe low bid work, but for residential install, that overtime should be making you money. What's your philosophy on that?
Well, so that's interesting. So I'm on a project right now that I have authorized overtime on. It's the first project all year that I've really authorized legitimate overtime on. I've given them a day here and a day there to wrap something up for an inspection or something like that. But I've given them kind of not carte blanche, but I've said, hey, if you guys want to get up to 50, 52 hours, that's fine. And so the thing I would argue for you is, I don't know how most people are doing. Obviously, we've got markup on our labor when we're bidding, but we're not bidding for overtime. And yes, the revenue is higher on the construction side of things, but I'm still not bidding for overtime, even though there's more leeway there.
Right. So let's have this argument or debate, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's a conversation. In theory, your labor as a percentage of your cost is lower because of equipment and material. And so even with overtime, it wouldn't balloon the costs up as much as a maintenance crew might. So and then if you can finish a job within a week without having to go into the next week, if you can get an extra billable day's worth of work done each week, that adds up.
So
that kind of revenue.
I used to be 100% on your side of this discussion. And what I have learned is what we saw happen is our production rates began to dwindle. And so those guys got used to getting a 50-hour, a 55-hour, 60-hour paycheck, and they were going to get their hours whether they were producing that work or not. So now the way it kind of works for us is the guy on the maintenance side, if we're going to let somebody work overtime, we're going to let the crews with the best efficiency numbers get the overtime because they're producing the best. And it's the same way on our construction side.
Listen, I totally agree with you. It only works if you're at depending on your definition of efficiency, let's call it 100% efficient. That's the only way overtime makes you money.
Yeah, we just saw where we were having reduced production for the hours of overtime we were paying, and saw that when we started pulling that back, that the production really didn't decrease all that much. And the other thing it allows us to do, even though it's a lower percentage of revenue, which I totally agree with, but I don't care what division of the business we're in, the more profitable we are, the more we can pay people. And if I can pay somebody to work 40 hours, the same amount that I was paying them to work 50 or 52 before, it's a win-win for everybody.
Since we're having this conversation, let me rebut your rebuttal here. So if you can train the crew and even bonus the crew on increasing their weekly revenue throughput and understanding what drives that from a billable hours perspective, not just payroll hours, then you should be able to get both increased throughput and efficiency.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I just found that in real life practice for us, we were not super successful at that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, interesting. Think about it. Think about how what you talk about is what your people remember. And so it kind of depends on what drum you're beating and what metrics you're showing and even what kind of incentives you have with your team. So this will take more than a podcast for us to deconstruct it. But I appreciate that. And so I do have a question going back to your training. I'm assuming you've got a bilingual workforce, right? We do. And so how do you train bilingually?
So so we really try for all of our foremen to speak both languages if at all possible. Some do a better job of that than others. We print the training in both languages. We're actually converting it over to digital right now and are creating it a master training manual instead of just the weekly training packets that will be uploaded to everybody's phone via our MDM system. So they've got the written training, and whatever video we attach to that training, we'll find in English and Spanish. And then some of our best bilingual speakers will kind of stand over to the side and translate to the guys that don't truly understand. But our guys have really worked to make sure that they're working on their English, because our guys understand that most of the clients are going to speak English to them. And so they've really made it a priority to work on their English.
Yeah. How do you balance I'm assuming you have some percentage of immigrant workforce or newly immigrated workforce with you only get 40 hours. How do you balance that?
It has been challenging, but I think what they have seen is they end up. So we had a lot of guys that said they wanted to work a lot and then would end up leaving because they said they were working too much.
Yeah.
And so kind of the happy medium is reducing overtime, where they still get a little bit of overtime, but letting them have some more time with their families. And as their production has increased, their average wages have increased to where they're really not making a whole lot less than they were making when they were working 50, 55, 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Okay. And that's true, you're saying, for all elements of your workforce?
Generally speaking, yes.
Well, that's great. And so one more, I do have another question about your training. And so you're training technical skills, I guess financial skills to some level, or financial accountability, safety, you're training life skills. What else are you training?
That covers the bulk of it. So I've got a family full of teachers. So I've learned that lesson plans are supposed to be cross trained. So, a planting lesson, for example, how to plant a B&B tree, is going to include, how we're physically doing it, step-by-step process, but also the safety portion of that and how we're watering it in. And so we're incorporating kind of all aspects of it into the lesson.
Also financially, how to save time when you're planting?
Yes. Yeah. So, a lot of the times the how to plant this or how to operate a zero turn lawnmower has efficiency training in there. And, most of the time when you're operating efficiently, you're typically operating safely too.
Yeah. Good. I like that. So you have 2 branches now, correct?
We do.
Is one of them run as a actual branch where there's a branch manager and that person controls everything in that branch?
Pretty much, yeah. Our Charlotte branch is the remote branch, which is a little backwards because Charlotte's the big city and obviously we're the small city. Interestingly enough, the Charlotte branch has only been open 3 years and is already nearly at the same revenue that Statesville is. We've experienced really large growth down there, but we've got a good branch manager in place down there. He's really running that operation, works closely with Bill. Obviously comes to our weekly leadership meetings and has access with us too. And I try to go down there 1 or 2 days a week just to be there in the morning and see him and support him. And Dad does the same. We try not to do it on the same day. And just to kind of go down there and give a little bit of support and make sure that our culture, that's the big thing, is making sure that TJL in Statesville and TJL in Charlotte are the same company.
Yeah. Have you, this is kind of out of the blue question, but have you ever thought about removing your first name from your company name?
So there is a company in Statesville that goes by Johnson Landscaping. So I have, over the years, I've thought about, do we just go to something totally different and that doesn't have a name involved? And over the last 3 to 5 years, I've really got to a point where if we have the right team in place and the right people are running it, nobody is really going to, fewer and fewer people call and ask for Tim.
Yeah. Good. It's like Anheuser-Busch. Sorry, he no longer works here anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's the right answer. I think the reputation and the company and the people become the brand, and it's not the owner is the brand.
Yeah, so it's super interesting because we started in Statesville and Dad and I serve people in Statesville. We'll still get that occasional call and they want to talk to Tim.
Yeah.
But our Charlotte operation, nobody ever calls and asks for Tim. They want their account manager. If they're upset with their account manager, they want their supervisor, which is a branch manager or whatever. They're not calling and saying, I need Tim.
That's great. So, and what was the revenue of that branch you said?
So it will be, if we do $10 million this year, it will probably be around 4.25, 4.5.
What volume do you think it should max out at?
It's not going to hold much more. We're a whole lot smaller down there. I know it can do 5. I'm not sure if it can do 6. Yeah. And then, I think somewhere along the way, we'll be looking at another branch, whether that's on the other side of Charlotte, or there's a couple areas on the 40 corridor we work in. We'll kind of look at where the business tells us we need to put another branch to be efficient.
Yeah. By the time this runs, I'll already have held it, but I'm holding a very unique masterclass on building branches. And I'm really excited about that. I think 4 to 5 million is a good number. How much can one person put their arms around where they know all the clients and all the employees?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. So the one thing that kind of helps with that number a little bit in Charlotte is our construction division runs separate. So we've got construction crews in both branches, but our branch manager in Charlotte doesn't manage their jobs. He manages them in the mornings and things like that, but he's not managing their full revenue. So it gives him a little bit more flexibility.
Gotcha.
For us to hold a little bit more volume there than I think an average company would.
So you're using a matrix org chart.
It is. I've not been smart enough to figure out a better way.
You have to be pretty darn smart to actually make that work, because that's not streamlined, right? That's a little complex.
Well,
go ahead.
Part of the challenge for us in that is that we've also not been super successful at building good construction crews in Charlotte yet. We've got one good crew down there led by a great foreman. He's doing a great job, but we're actually still sending a couple crews a day from Statesville down into Charlotte for construction work. And so I think as we continue to build, maintenance crews, nobody likes to hear this, but the fact of the matter is it's easier to build a maintenance crew out than it is a construction crew if you're doing the high-end construction work we're doing.
Yeah.
And so as we continue to build crews in Charlotte, I think that org chart probably changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. We've got a project manager. Right now it's an open position, but we've got a project manager that's housed down there. He manages the crew that's housed down there, and then he manages the other projects in Charlotte. And so we kind of have a north and a south project manager. And that's how we've kind of gotten around that. But I think that as we build the crews to match the revenue at each branch, that org chart probably changes.
Tim, we got about 5 minutes left here. What's your vision for the future for your business?
Depends on the day. But no, really. So, I want to continue to grow this thing as long as we can have fun and as long as we can maintain the quality. If we get to the point that we can't enjoy who we're working with and what we're doing every day, and we can't produce the quality of work that we've built a reputation on, then it'll be time to stop growing.
Okay. Well, I like that. What's your vision? You're young, right? You're even younger than you look a little bit, Tim.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I want to keep growing. I want to. I really want to break open in the commercial maintenance market. I mean, it's grown, but I don't feel like we've had that huge breakthrough moment. We're trying to increase our average property size. So, looking at some direct report properties and things like that. And so I really want to, as I have come off of really being a construction division manager and empowered my construction division manager to run that division, I really want to help empower our team to run the whole business. And I want to facilitate the maintenance growth the way that I really have done a better job of on the construction side over the last several years.
Tim, your conundrum, your challenge is kind of the main conundrum for anybody who comes out of the install world. I mean, I'm working with a company about your size right now in DC. The owner's name is Barry. So if he's listening, hey, Barry. And loves the install side, right? It's just an example, but the owner for important reasons, gets sucked into that division. Even when you told us who your direct reports were, estimating and purchasing, right? That's not estimating for maintenance, I don't think, or that's not the reason they report to you.
Right.
So, that's the conundrum, to pull yourself away and be the business manager or, investor and not just the install.
Oh, you're 100% right. But, I think the one thing that all of us owners who have ties to the construction side of the business also realize is, maintenance is obviously more economy proof and the cash flow is much smoother. And so it's necessary. I mean, I know there are a lot of install only companies out there that do a great job and are super profitable, but I just feel like it's a safer business to have a substantial maintenance business there.
Yeah. So for sure. 100%. And so you've got a branch. Is that how you'll keep growing, is multiplying your branches?
I think so. I mean, we can grow 8 to 10 fold and not increase our footprint at all. We're spread out more than we probably should be. And so we can continue to build density and add branches inside our current footprint. I don't really see us expanding our footprint anytime soon.
Did you say you can grow 10 times?
I think we can. In our current footprint, I think we could grow 8 to 10 times.
That's a astronomical growth without changing your radius, so to speak.
I look at it as a challenge. I think we can. We service a pretty large area. Charlotte by itself is a large market.
Well,
but,
sure.
we spread out a little bit. Rock Hill's booming. We do a little bit of stuff on the I-40 corridor as well. So there's opportunity inside of. We did some crazy things when we were first trying to grow, and took some packages on commercial maintenance and said, we really wanted to be in this area, but in order to get all of these locations, we had to take one over here and we had to take one over here. And so, what we did was we just built routes around them.
Man, if you're making money today, and I know you are, you're just going to be increasing your productivity continually as you fill in. It's kind of like you get an outline of a drawing and now you're just starting to color in and fill it in.
Absolutely. That's the goal.
That's a fun challenge. If you can I'm sure you will. As you pull it off, you're just going to find all these different opportunities for efficiency.
Yeah. That is what we look at more than anything else on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And it also holds us accountable. It holds us accountable because we have to maintain our reputation in that area if we don't want to spread out.
Quality control will get easier, though, interesting, as you grow. Not
it will.
Harder, but easier.
Yeah.
This is interesting. You really do have a kind of a unique, you've maybe inadvertently set up this unique model that quality could increase as you grow. On paper, at least, right? Yeah, it'll be exciting to watch you grow.
Yeah, well, I look forward to it, and I've enjoyed our time together. I want to make sure that I'm the president of the North Carolina Nursery and Landscape Association this year, and I know you're coming to do one of our keynotes, and I'm really looking forward to having you there.
Well, I really appreciate that. I hope we're having a drink or even a meal together.
I would love to.
One more thing before we go. Some people not complain, but they're like, hey, why don't you have small companies on here? And hello, every company was small when they started. And I am going to have more smaller companies because I work with companies from $1 million up to, 20 million. But give some advice to somebody who's at 2 million, and what would your advice be to them to help them get to where you are today, or even halfway to where you are?
So I'll just tell you this. I assume that most rooms I walk into that most people are smarter than me. I don't think I've got some secret sauce, silver bullet, anything that's any better than anybody else's. The way we've built our business is through relationships and just doing what we say we're going to do when we say we're going to do it. And if we can't, communicating with people. And that's really it. That's really what our whole business is based on.
Yeah. It sounds so simple, but it's actually something my father told me when I first started working with him. I'm like, what's the secret sauce? He added one more sentence to it. He's like, we keep our promises and we fix our mistakes.
100%. Some of the best clients we have are clients that have become lifelong clients, or clients that we have had a really bad situation with. And how we react to adversity has created some lifelong clients.
There's something really beautiful about that, because it says you don't have to be perfect. You're going to make mistakes. And if you fix them, people will like you. If you fix them quickly without pointing fingers at the client, making the process easy, you'll actually have a more loyal client, and you'll maybe even have a better friend through that process.
I agree. We can debrief as a team after the fact, but when that situation comes up, I don't care whose fault it is. I want the client happy, and I want to do whatever's necessary to make the client happy. And if we do that, we can work the rest out. Yeah.
That really tells the listener, you don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. You just have to have maybe the highest level of integrity, or at the high level. You don't have to be the person with the most resources. You just have to have the most perseverance and watch your numbers as you go. Most people give up too quickly. So if you don't give up quickly, you strive to keep your promises, communicate, fix your mistakes, say you're sorry. It goes a long way.
If you do those things, the growth naturally happens.
Well, Tim, I'm looking forward to meeting you in person. Really appreciate your time here today.
Absolutely. I enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.